Welcome to Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant. I am your host, Jamie Massey, and you're listening to episode 79. If you are looking for pregnancy stories of women over 40, you've come to the right place. And today on the show, we have Bridget on to share her pregnancy journey at 40. And in this episode, she does share her losses that include pregnancy of unknown location. She also has a fibroid the size of an orange. And she also, during her pregnancy with her son, she bled. And it's just, I'm realizing that it's so common for women to bleed during pregnancy. And after seeing a fertility specialist, she was ready to do IVF or have an IUI, and then she became naturally pregnant with her son. And I just love that. And our new segment, Listener Feedback. Today on the show, we have Bethan, who says, we had a natural transfer back in October, but weren't successful. We are hoping to try again in the new year, but this time it will be a short medical cycle transfer. I had lost hope, but then found your Instagram and I had listened to some of your podcasts, and they've really helped move my mindset. So I'm really grateful. Thank you. Bethan, I hope now that we are in the new year, your transfer was successful. It can be so easy to lose hope. But please let us know your update. We are all rooting for you. And I am 43 years old and 27 weeks and 2 days pregnant. My birthday was just yesterday, and it was such a great day. I really enjoyed it and played in the garden, and it was a really great day. But it's funny, being pregnant, I feel like I go through these spurts of feeling so big and huge, and then other times when I just don't feel big at all. And this week, I haven't felt very big. But of course, this is besides they measure the fundal height that measures, they measure you at each appointment. And last time I was a little over the mark, so I'm okay with that. And, I guess maybe it's growth spurts that make me feel that way. I don't know. But my belly button is about to pop, and shaving down there is just out of the question. And I was talking to my sister about this, who has a 3-year-old, and she told me there's actual mirrors for that. I had no idea. So that's my next research topic. And grapes are still my strongest craving by far. I'm sure that sounds so weird. Maybe it's the water thing. And besides the round ligament pains, I sneezed the other day and they both, each side, just screamed in pain. It's just the sharpest pain. It doesn't last too long, but it kind of goes away. It's kind of like your bikini line where your hip bends. Your leg bends, sorry. Oh my gosh, So I just have to be careful whenever I move and get up. And when I sneezed, I just couldn't get in the right position quick enough. And oh my God, it hurt so bad. But the reflex is actually also bad. Am I complaining too much? I mean, I feel like it's always at the back of my throat. The first time it happened, I actually thought I had a chip stuck in the back of my throat. I was so serious about this. I mean, I was eating chips. But I even had my husband look at the back of my throat with a flashlight because I thought something was stuck. That's what it feels like to me. And I haven't bought a portable breast pump yet. So I'm still working on that. My sister gave me a plug-in one, the Spectra. So I just ordered new parts for that. And So I still need to research the portable breast pump. But the third trimester is this week, the end of this week. And I am feeling like more of a sense of urgency just to get everything together because we really haven't. My baby shower is being planned, so I'm just so excited to celebrate with friends and family. And I love all of your feedback that I get from me sharing my pregnancy every week and from everyone following along. I love it. But let's get on with Bridget's story at 40. Bridget, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And before we get started with her story, Bridget, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm 40 years old. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina with my husband and my 4.5-month-old son. I'm a working mom. So I just went back to work about a month ago.
Awesome. And Bridget was pregnant at 40. Bridget, I think your story starts with your husband and meeting him. You want to start with that?
Sure. My husband and I met in 2011. We have been friends for a long time. I liked him the entire time, and it took him 10 years to ask me on a date. So here we are.
And you were 38, right?
Yep, I was 38. It was in the summer of 2021. And are you ready for me to just go on with the story? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So we met we started dating at the end of July and found out we were pregnant in August.
A month into your relationship.
Yeah, that was great. I was a little freaked out, but then so I was 38 and just about to I just was turning 38. It was 2021. So I was just turning 38 during this whole time. So 2 days after I found out I was pregnant was my birthday, and found out I was pregnant the next day at my brother's wedding. I started having a miscarriage during the ceremony. So I could feel it. I knew what was happening. But given that it was my brother's day, I was not going to take away from that. And I just put on my brave face, cleaned myself up and carried on. So then we went to the beach for my husband and I, our birthdays are 2 days apart. So I'm August 16th. He's August 18th. And he had this whole trip. The whole thing when I found out I was pregnant was, we didn't even say I love you yet. Like, how are we going to have a baby together when we don't even say that yet? But he had this whole ordeal planned for the beach to tell me he loved me and take me on this sunset cruise. So the morning we were leaving for the beach, I went to the emergency room just to make sure everything was okay. Because when all this happened, we were in Pittsburgh for my brother's wedding. And then we drove back to North Carolina. And that's the next day I went to the hospital just to make sure everything was fine. It was still in COVID times. So initially the nurse was like, well, good news, you're still pregnant. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay, great. I guess I didn't miscarry. Then I'm thinking I shouldn't have had wine at my brother's wedding. But then it was taking so long, and everybody in that hospital emergency room was very sick. And after a couple of hours, I was like, I'm not bleeding anymore. I'm still pregnant. I'm just going to carry on, and I'll make a doctor's appointment for when we get back from the beach next week. So we went, and it's a 2-hour drive. And right as we were kind of pulling in is when I was like, I'm bleeding again. So we dropped our stuff off and went to the emergency room at the beach. And that hospital was even more packed than in Raleigh. And it was a lot of very, very sick people. So after about 4 hours, we realized we're not going to get seen. They don't have any beds. They had the emergency room curtained off to put beds in the waiting room. So I was just like, Tim, it's not painful. We know what's happening. We'll go to the doctor when we get back on Monday. I'm not going to stay here any longer. So we left, and throughout the week, I continued to bleed, and I thought I passed the pregnancy. So on Monday, we go back. I went to the doctors. They did a pregnancy test. They said, you're still technically pregnant, but that is because you could have tissue. Like it takes a while for your hormones to dissipate.
Sure.
So it was the nurse practitioner. She said, you're just going to test your levels and every 2 days. And then when they get down to 0, you're good. We just want to make sure that the pregnancy is terminating naturally as it should be. So I remember the first level was in the 500s. She told me like they'll keep going down. And then I got the email from the second blood test. And the email said, good news, or could just keep coming every 2 days until it's at 0. But the level was 800. And I called and said, or I emailed back and said, well, you told me that my levels were supposed to be dropping, but this just went from 500 to 800. And they called immediately and said, come in, like, we need to see you. So we went in, they did an ultrasound, and they could not find the pregnancy. So typically an ectopic pregnancy would be in the fallopian tubes and visible on an ultrasound, but because they couldn't see it, they said that it was a pregnancy of unknown location, or a PUL. But to confirm that, they said it also could be tissue left over from the pregnancy in my uterus. So they wanted to do a DNC to just make sure. They did the DNC, they cleared out all the tissue, and there was nothing left. Like my uterus was clear. So at that point, they knew it was ectopic and gave me methotrexate to terminate the pregnancy, since they didn't know where it was. They didn't know where it could rupture, and basically told me I need to really take it easy. It was like a week later, we were back at the beach, and I got a call from the doctor who said, you need to come in. The methotrexate's not working. And
how did they know that? Were your levels going
my
up
levels
again?
they didn't go up, but they weren't dropping at the rate that they needed to. So he said, they're not dropping fast enough. And like this, where you're at now, it could still rupture. So, and we don't know where the pregnancy is. So we don't know what kind of damage it could cause. So I was like, well, I am 2 hours away. I can't get there before your office is closed. So he said, well, you have to, like, if you have any pain, he told me to watch for shoulder pain where the shoulder joint meets. If something ruptures, that's where you'll feel a shooting pain. I had shoulder surgery in 2017. So I always kind of have a little bit, like, I'm a very anxious person to begin with. And so I was just very much so like, every move I made was like, is this rupturing? Every twinge, everything. So I waited till Monday. I went in and did the second dose of methotrexate. I had to go in. At that point, it was like, exercise at all. Like, you have to really take it easy. I had to go in every 72 hours to do blood work. So whether it was in the doctor's office or the hospital, I had to go in. My veins were blown. I just had bruises all like on my arms all the time. And I remember calling my mom one night saying, after I got the email, what like the level was from that test. And at this point, it was probably 6 to 8 weeks in from the time we had found out. So it was maybe late October. It was right before Halloween. And I was like, man, and my level's at 13 and I have to go back. Like, I hate going in there. I hate seeing all these pregnant women. I hate having to get poked and prodded I just hate this. And my mom was like, it's almost over. Like, you're fine. It'll be over soon. And then I got a call after I went in to get the blood work done, and I get a call from the doctor. My husband, prior to his job now, he was a reality TV producer. So he was away filming a show. And I remember our cleaning lady was there, and I got a call from the doctor saying, you need to come in. Your levels are at 120. And I was like, how did this happen? Because we weren't very active. But when we were, we used the pull-out methods. Well, it wasn't really a method, but, we thought it was. naively and stupidly at 38 years old. We should have known better, but they also didn't, nobody had really communicated to us, you absolutely cannot get pregnant. Nobody told us this would be really bad if you get pregnant. Nobody told us any of like the what could happen, what happens next. And so at first I was like, well, okay, let's go with it.
Yeah.
And then we were told, no, like this could be really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So then it was because of the methotrexate.
Right. That's really shocking because I know when I did it, they told me that we couldn't try for at least 3 months.
Yeah, we didn't get that.
Wow.
Memo. So we did not know that. And the decision came because some of the risks is deformities, mental problems. And I really had to think long and hard about it because did I want to bring a child into this world knowing that I caused any kind of special need? But I prayed on it and I told my husband, like, if we are meant to be parents of a child with special needs, then we're going to have a child with special needs, whether it's this baby or another baby. Like, if that's God's plan for us, that's God's plan. And I said, so I want to carry on with this pregnancy and see where it goes. And he breathed a sigh of relief and was like, thanks. That's exactly how I was feeling. Like, I'm glad we're on the same page. So the doctors were excited and everything. So we carried on at that point. So I had, up to that point, I had seen like 4 different doctors in the practice. And this woman, Dr. Nana Panini, she's amazing. She was like, I'm your doctor now. Like, I'm taking on this case because I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen somebody getting pregnant while you're getting tested, like your HCG levels, you're still getting tested. So,
and you took the drug to stop the pregnancy. So it's so wild.
Yeah. So we were carrying on and we did the initial ultrasound and she said, we don't see anything, but you're still early. Come back next week. And that was it because keep in mind, I found out way earlier than anybody would because like even before a pregnancy test would detect it, because I was doing this test like I wasn't expecting it. So they did the ultrasound. I was at like 4 weeks. So they didn't see anything, which is totally normal. She said, come back next week. We should see something in the next week or 2. The next week I went back at 5 weeks and they still didn't see anything. They said, come back again. And so I went back the next week, 6 weeks. They saw, I believe it was a fetal pool, but there was nothing, no yolk sac. Yeah, I think it was a fetal pool, no yolk sac, or there was a yolk sac and no fetal pool. I forget which one it was, but she said, it like basically this doesn't look good. And you need to come back next week and we can confirm. And I was like, well, next week's Thanksgiving. We're going to be in Pittsburgh visiting family. So she's like, okay, come back the week after. And that was a hard holiday because it kind of like, I felt pregnant. I was sick. I had a lot of morning sickness. My body was acting pregnant. My boobs were growing. I was so tired. And I just didn't, nobody had any hope for this. So I still had to treat myself as if I were pregnant though. So then after Thanksgiving, at that point, I think it was 9 weeks, it was confirmed that it was a blighted ovum. And so the blighted ovum is just when you do have an egg that got fertilized, it didn't make it all the way into the uterus, but your body believes it's pregnant. It is one of the most common types of miscarriages in the first trimester. So, and actually like while I was going through that, 2 of my girlfriends the same day that I found out about mine also had the same thing happen. So It was just really like ironic. So I had a D&C that was in December. So it was the beginning of December. I had a D&C and it was painful. Like the first D&C wasn't that painful, but I think because there was nothing to remove from my uterus. But this one, they did have things to remove. So, and then after that, we were just like, we're not trying. We have to not be active for a while.
Yeah. This was your third loss, right?
This was my second
A
at this point. So
second.
the ectopic and then the
Okay.
bladed ovum. Yep.
And how were your thoughts during this time? Your emotional
Um,
state?
so I took time off work.
Mm-hmm.
I at this point just I felt like something's wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's wrong with my body? I've spent the better part of my adult life trying to prevent pregnancy. And now I'm
Yes.
thinking, I'm not going to be able to get pregnant. Are you kidding? So I really was just like, I just feeling really down. It was, my job was extremely demanding at the time. So there was really very little kind of work life balance. I was just working around the clock. So I was stressed out with that. It was taking a big toll on my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I I asked for some time off. So I'd taken 6 weeks medical leave. I will say that the one good thing that came of it was even though like my husband and I had known each other for 10 years and had been friends for 10 years, going through that with him, I'm like going to get emotional, solidified. I knew that he was my person. Like there was not a doubt in my mind because he stood by me and I was a nightmare some days, like just irate and angry. I was in therapy. I was seeing a Christian therapist when I got pregnant with the second one. I was trying to find like a good therapist at that point. And so I found a woman that like was faith-based and I'm faith-based. So I thought that would be a good match. And when I told her that I got pregnant and that then we lost it and all the things, she told me that it was God's way of punishing me for getting pregnant out of wedlock. So I was just like, it was so much going like with all of it. I, was having some, I would say like turmoil with some of my friendships too, like some of my close friendships. And I think, sometimes people drift when you get into relationships, you change. And
Sure.
so that was hard, but it was emotionally, I was a wreck.
Yeah. Did you believe this therapist or were you like, I'm never seeing you again?
I both. I said I've never seen you again. I said I don't think this is a good fit. I stayed for that appointment and then I left and I cried to my husband and he was like, "You're not going back to her like that. Who says that?"
Yeah.
So I I decided I didn't go back to her, but I had trouble with it. I had trouble trying to not believe it. Like you can't unhear something.
Mm-hmm. Plus, your
So
mind was probably looking for
it
answers
was, yeah, it
and
was
she gave you
any
one.
reason. Yeah, exactly. So I continued to see my OB, Dr. Nana Panini, and we were talking about the fibroids. And she said, I'm not gonna, we can't blame the fibroids. I had uterine fibroids. I discovered them in 2020. So at the start of the pandemic. And so like this was something I don't think I would ever know anything about, but I started bleeding. Like I would get my period and it started going for like 3 days was normal, went 5 days. And then the next month was 7 days. And the next month is 12 days. And then it got to up to like 20 days. And I'm like, something is not right. Why am I bleeding more than half the month? And
Yeah.
that's when I went in and they discovered 2 fibroids on my uterus. So uterine fibroids are very common and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of women don't even know they have them and they don't affect them. But in my case, they did. And because at that point I wasn't trying to get pregnant, I just kind of left them because I wasn't going to do anything in the middle of a pandemic. So
Mm-hmm.
at this point, one thing we realized is that one of the fibroids disintegrated after that first ectopic pregnancy, but the other fibroid continued to grow. So after the second pregnancy, it had grown even more. And so it was like January 2022. The doctor said, your fibroids are about the size of an orange. This one fibroid is about the size of an orange and weighs about a pound.
Wow.
So
Was it painful?
I would have really bad cramps during my cycle,
Okay.
but that was about it. But I was used to that. I always had bad cramps. So that's why, like, and I have a friend that works in the field, and she said that she's seen women that just think they've gained weight and they've removed fibroids the size of like a cantaloupe.
Whoa.
but they just think they're gaining weight because it's a slow grow. So you
Hmm.
don't realize it. So there was a drug had come out on the market to remove them, like by taking this. I decided not to do that because at that point, we decided we want to get married, we want to have kids. So in order my option was I leave the fibroid, I might continue to have miscarriages, or if I don't, the fibroid could grow it was growing into the uterus. It could take up the space that the baby would have needed, and the baby wouldn't be able to grow. The other option was to have surgery to remove it, but that would mean that when I did get pregnant, I would have to deliver via C-section. I mean, I think every woman like has those visions as like a little, when you watch movies of it, even as a little girl, like you're pushing
Uh-huh.
and I was like, okay, so that's never going to be it for me. But also at the same time, I'm like, that's never going to be it for me. I'm okay with that. Like
Uh-huh.
maybe that's might be painful. So I went ahead with the fibroid surgery in July of 2022. So they removed it. My doctor recommended this surgeon, Dr. Inge. He created the robotic myomectomy surgery that he performed. So I felt really comfortable with him. I have 4 little scars where they went in, and 3 little ones and one like maybe inch long one where they removed it. And then we had to wait 3 months to try to get pregnant. So we planned a wedding in 6 months. It was very small. We got married in November so that we could start trying. And then we found out we were pregnant in January 2023. At that point, I was 39 years old. So
What were you
I,
doing afterwards?
yeah, so we got married and I went into all like research mode. Um, And so what's going to help? I joined like the what to expect when you're expecting app. I was in all of the forums to figure out how are women getting pregnant, what's working for them. I discovered pre-seed lubricant. So we started using that. Then Vitex Berry, it's like a supplement for your reproductive health. I started using that. And and there was a raspberry leaf tea I took, and then I was taking prenatals. Like, I mean, I was the amount of supplements I was taking, I took magnesium. And so I couldn't tell you it was one thing or because took it all at once. So I have no
Sure.
idea what was the catalyst, but we got pregnant and I was, ecstatic and like, this is going to be amazing. And because we were trying and I was like psycho about it, I would take a test basically from the day after we ovulated. I would start taking my little dip strips and waiting for them to turn blue. So then once I saw the line, it was so faint, but it was there. And I took a picture of it. I called the doctor and she's like, well, you need to come in. Like, right. Because of having that ectopic pregnancy, I needed to go in to make sure because now women that have had an ectopic are 10% more likely to have another one. So
Hmm.
she just they want to make sure that that wasn't the case. So when I went in, that was later in the afternoon, that pregnancy test was negative. And
Oh my gosh.
I was like, no, no, I have a picture on my phone. I took this morning. It is time stamped. It was first morning urine. Like, that's probably why it's really early. I think I was 10 days post ovulation. Like, and she's like, okay, Bridget, we'll go do your HCG, get your blood work done, and we'll talk. And so then, she called 2 days later and said, okay, you are pregnant. Your HCG level is very, very low, though. It was like 20 something. And she said, so just like you'll have to come back in 2 days and make sure it's rising. And so I was taking pregnancy tests because I wanted to see it getting darker and darker. And it did. It went darker and then started getting lighter and lighter.
Mm.
And then she called and said, like, your levels are going down. And I was 4 weeks, like 4 to 5 weeks. And she said, it's a chemical pregnancy. And so you're just it'll be like you have a period. It shouldn't be painful. And it wasn't. Emotionally it was.
Yeah.
And then my husband and I made the decision to meet with a fertility specialist. So we had that appointment. Prior to having the appointment, they did all our blood work and everything. So we just kind of talked about options, and she said that the good thing is that I'm able to get pregnant. Like that's a positive. And this was before we had the results back, but she said we have, the it would be one thing. She might be able to identify a specific problem if all three miscarriages were the same type of miscarriage. Like if we continue to have chemical pregnancies or continue to have blighted ovums or continue to have ectopic, we may be able to pinpoint something is wrong. But these are all like chemical pregnancies. Women have them all the time and don't even know, because it's just kind of like, if you don't know to take a test, you wouldn't even know you were pregnant. And she said blighted ovums are the most common type of miscarriage in your first trimester. And she said ectopics are more rare, but they do happen. She's like, you just kind of had like a string of bad luck, it seems like. So let's see what's going on. And so they tested me, they tested my husband, and they said that with his morphology, he was like 20% morphology, but his sperm count was like, I think it was like 300 something million. Like it was crazy high. And so she's like, even with 20% of that being like bad sperm, you're still more than what the average male has. So we were like, so of course in my mind, I'm like, great, it's me. I'm the problem.
Yeah.
They tested my eggs, like did the ultrasound to look at my follicle count and everything. And she said, you are on the low end of a woman in general, but you're where you should be for your age. Like you are still in the range that you can conceive. Like you're not in any place that is alerting to me. So we were considering IUI or IVF. As you know, it's very expensive, but that was going to be our next kind of, like, the nurses were the ones telling us this stuff. We didn't have the follow up with the doctor yet. That was going to be our next step, is IUI or IVF. And our follow up appointment was on St. Patrick's Day. So in the meantime, we were still trying. Or my husband told me I'm not allowed to test every day. So like that next cycle, the day we went to the fertility specialist and met with her the first time, she was like, okay, well, the bad news is you aren't pregnant this month. Like, sorry to tell you, but keep trying and we'll run these tests. And we went away for the weekend to the mountains. And I was like, you know what? I haven't been drinking because I was treating my body as if I was pregnant. Like I cut out alcohol, all of it. And I said, we know we're not pregnant. The only time I would drink is if I got my period. That was, I was like, okay, that day. But I was like, I'm going to enjoy the weekend. This might be the last weekend in a long time that I can have wine and enjoy myself. So we went to the Biltmore. We did a wine tasting. I decided I was going to sign up for a year's worth of wine to be delivered to my house. And Tim's like, in the hopes of what, like, you might not be able to drink it at. I was like, I'll drink it eventually. It's not like it goes bad. But we had a really great weekend, and I'll never forget. We went to this little store and there was a candle and it said hope on it. And I said, I want to buy that candle. Like, it's just speaking to me. Like, let's get that candle and let's burn it every night and hold on to hope. And we prayed a lot, but this time it just seemed different. Like I just felt different. And even my husband was like, you seem really like more positive. And I don't know what it is. And I said, I don't know either, but I feel more positive. I think I'm at peace knowing that whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And we have options. Maybe that's it. Like I just feel at peace. And he said, but you are not allowed to take a test every day. You have to wait 2 weeks. Like you have to wait until 2 weeks after you ovulate. So I waited, and every little thing I would be like, oh, does this mean I'm pregnant? Like the one night we were cooking salmon, the smell of salmon, all of a sudden I was like, I think the salmon's bad. Like I think, and he's like, it smells fine to me. I was like, I took a taste of it. I'm like, this tastes horrible. He's like, tastes fine to me. And I was like, oh, I can't eat it. And I'm like, maybe I'm pregnant. I always like salmon. I will say that my whole pregnancy, I did not like salmon. I love it now. But, and then one night I was cutting onions and my eyes were watering, which I've never, like, sometimes that affects a lot of people, right? Cutting onions, but it's never affected me in that way.
Uh-huh.
So I immediately Googled, like, what does this mean? And they was like, could this be a sign of pregnancy? And Google said yes. So I was like, okay, who knows? I had a dream like 3 days before we got pregnant. So at this point, like I said, I'm 39. This was in what year are we? This is 2023. So this was last February, Marchish. It was March. And I had a dream that my husband was holding the pregnancy test in the powder room and it was a positive pregnancy test, but he was holding like he came to me in the bathroom saying, holding a pregnancy test saying, we're pregnant. And I like, we laughed about it when I told him about the dream because like, why would he be pregnant, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was also doing the basal body temperature testing. And so I noticed that like around that time, my levels dropped. So I was like, I'm going to get my period because the way it works is like right before your cycle, your levels will drop. It could be a conception drop, like where it drops and then spikes, but usually that's just one day. And since it dropped 2 days in a row, I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh, I'm out. Like I didn't get pregnant this round. So I
Yeah.
was feeling pretty down,
Mm-hmm.
like
You
just
mean your
disappointed.
temperature dropped?
Yeah, my temperature
Okay.
dropped. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then St. Patrick's Day. So the night before St. Patrick's Day, I, was like, okay, tomorrow's the day. But I really was like, I don't think I am because of that drop. I woke up. I didn't know it was the middle of the night. But I woke up and I had to go to the bathroom. And because of taking the temperature, you have to do that before you even use the restroom. So I took my temperature and then went to put it in the app and realized like, oh, it's 1 a.m. Like, wait, it's St. Patrick's Day. I can take a test. And when I went to put it in, I was like, whoa, wait, I spiked. This just went up like a degree. So I get up, I wake my husband up on, he's like, what? I was like, it's St. Patrick's Day. And he's like, okay. I'm like, I'm going to go take a test. And he's like, oh, and I was like, you said don't St. Patrick's Day. It's St. Patrick's Day. He's like, go do that. And so I went and we have an ensuite, but with a water closet, but there's nowhere to set anything down except like on the floor. So I would take the test in the powder room because they're like, you pee in a cup and then dip the test strips in and I could set the cup on the sink. I would wash it after. But I was in there, and when I went to set the cup down and I dipped the test strip in, I must have dipped the test strip in and then set it, like there was water or something. It like immediately got like the whole thing got wet, and all the lines showed, like the two lines showed, but I was like, oh, I think I messed it up because it just put in something. I don't. So I like go running with my little pea cup into our bedroom I remembered I had a digital test in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I'm going to take the test on that. So at that point, my husband gets up and was like, what is going on? I'm like, I think I broke that test. I have more, but I remembered I have this digital test and I know that's going to be like, it's going to say pregnant or not pregnant. It's going to be really easy to read. So he's like, okay, so we do that and we're sitting there. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to go do one of those test strips again, just to see. So I ran back to the powder room, did the test strip. And as I'm standing there, like, wow, this says pregnant, like immediately it popped up pregnant. My husband comes to the bathroom door with a positive pregnancy test, literally just like in my dream. So we were jumping up and down, thanking God and really excited. So I called the doctor. I went in, they did the ultrasound and they could confirm. So at first they didn't see anything. I had one test done at 4 weeks, one ultrasound at 4 weeks, and then I went in at 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
At 6 weeks, they were able to see and confirm it was not ectopic and that there was both a yolk sac and a fetal pole.
Yeah.
So
How did that feel?
Amazing. It felt like so good. Like this is it. So we decided to tell my family because we were going to be seeing his family for Easter in a couple of weeks. So we were like, let's just call my family since we're not going to see them. And so I remember calling my mom and saying like, hey mom, I was thinking about Thanksgiving And she's like, okay. And I was like, I was just wondering if like you guys could maybe try to plan to come down to North Carolina. And she's like, Bridget, I mean, it's months away. I don't know. And I was like, well, I think you're going to need to come down to North Carolina. And she's like, well, okay. And I was like, because I'm pregnant and I'm going to have a baby then. And she was like, wait, what? For real? Like, so it was really sweet. And I remember calling my brother and telling him, and he was like, so you're like not ectopic, like everything's safe. And I was like, yep, everything's good. And I remember he started crying and he was so excited. So it was, I called my sisters. They were both just like over the moon. And then we waited. My dad was still, so I had to call him back, and everybody was so excited. I just remember just feeling like this is it. This is what was meant to be. So we went to New Jersey. I think that was like a week later. It was for Easter. So we had like told Tim's mom, we got her one of those like calendars that you can put birthdays on it, like every month. It's like hangs a charm. And so on the month of November, we just put baby Duffy and like a question mark for the date. And so he was like, Mom, can you just, because it was all of his sisters, he has 9 nieces and nephews. And so it was all of his sisters, their husbands, his brother, his wife, and all the kids. So he's like, Mom, can you just make sure we got all the birthdays right before you hang this? Because he wanted, so we recorded her going through. And then when she got to November, which of course was way down the line, she was like, wait, oh my God, wait, are you? So, and then we told his sisters, and it was really just amazing. And then the day before Easter, while we were still up there, I started bleeding. So we went to the emergency room, and I was sure it was a lot of blood. It was more than I even experienced in that first miscarriage. So I was certain like I had lost it. And they finally, after a couple hours of being there, they wheeled us into the room to get an ultrasound. I'll never forget the woman. She had absolutely no emotion. Like I don't know how it's even possible to have that little emotion. And she handed me, I call it Wanda, like the internal ultrasound stick. I just
Yeah.
always called it Wanda. So she handed me Wanda and made me put it in myself. And I was like, okay, this is new. Okay. And then we're sitting there and she's moving it around. And then she goes, there's the heartbeat. Like no emotion at all. Just turns the screen, points to it, says, there's the heartbeat. And like we couldn't hear it or anything. She wouldn't let us hear it. And that was it. She pulled the thing out. And I said, well, what caused the bleeding? Like we were ecstatic, like there's a heartbeat, like we're good, but why were we bleeding? What's going on? I can't tell you.
Ugh.
You need to go back to your room now. And I was like, so we go back to the room, and basically they look at the ultrasound, and let's in emergency rooms, those doctors are jack of all trades, masters of none type of thing.
Right.
So they don't fully know what they're looking for. So they told us, we don't understand the cause of the bleeding, but the baby's healthy. And I would just follow up with your doctor. So I called my doctor, and they can't see the ultrasound images because I don't have them at that point. Like I had to have them mailed, and that was a mess. And the doctor on call was like, well, it sounds like you're starting a miscarriage. And I was like, what? She's like, it could be fine. And at that point I started doing, again, all my Google research, because that's what we do.
Uh-huh.
And I asked about this. I had read about this subchorionic hematoma. And she said, yeah, it could be that. But I would just say, like, monitor it. If it gets really bad, go back to the hospital. And so my doctor had saw that my notes from the on-call, and she called me that Monday, first thing in the morning, and was like, Bridget, what's going on? Like, tell me everything. And so she asked me the color of the blood. Since it was brown, she's like, brown is good. Brown is good. She's like, I need to have you come in. Let's do an ultrasound. And at that point, the ultrasound images had gotten to the doctors, and they were able to see a very large subchorionic hematoma. I don't really understand what it is or why it happens, but it's basically a blood clot with the baby. So we were we were monitored closely. I mean, it was a blessing and a curse. You're scared out of your mind that you're going to lose this because it could rupture again. Like you could bleed again. It could continue, like never dissipate, and that could cause issues. So, you're worried about that, but the blessing was we got so many more ultrasounds. So we got to
Yeah.
see our baby much more frequently.
And how
So
far along were you when this happened?
10 weeks.
Okay. And this is the furthest you've been in a
Yeah.
pregnancy too.
Yeah. So when this was like we've never had saw a heartbeat at that, like this was the first time we've ever got to see a heartbeat. So it was terrifying. And they said, like, you need to not stress. Well, my uncle passed away suddenly. And then, so that was like, I mean, how do you not stress? Like that's stressful. And then I lost my job. So that happened. And I was like, I just told them I was pregnant. So there was just a lot of stress. And I'm like telling myself, I can't stress. This is a high risk pregnancy. I need to breathe. And I really just looked at it as this management was poor. I'm going to take this as time off, like time to just focus on me, the baby. But as you know, being pregnant, like the hormones are crazy. Your emotions are elevated and everything seems a lot worse than it really is. And so I really leaned into my faith and got through to like the 20-week ultrasound. I remember we had to do like the anatomy scan. Something didn't look right on the first one, so we had to go back. So it was like why can't anything be easy? Why can't anything be good?
What didn't look right?
They couldn't get a good image of the heart.
Okay.
So they needed us to go back to make sure that the heart was the way it should have been. So we had to wait to do that. So that was, at this point, we're in mid-July. I don't even know how many weeks that puts me, but I was after 20 weeks at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was late August, early September. So I was 6 months. I was 40 at this point. I turned 40 in August and I was 6 months pregnant. And it was right after that I was doing the kick test every day. So I would, like, a couple times a day, usually by like 10, 12, and 2 p.m., I would just lay down and put on a show. I was really into Virgin River. I remember watching that and counting the kicks and how many kicks. And the baby was pretty active, like every day. But one day there was no activity. And so something my husband and I always did was the Doppler. We would like listen for the heartbeat. It was just like a special thing. So we did that and I could hear the heartbeat, but I still couldn't feel the baby kicking. And he was really active, especially at night and first thing in the morning. So I was like, well, let me just wait until the morning because maybe he's just having a sleepy day. And in the morning we'll see what's going on. And then in the morning I still didn't feel any kicking. So I messaged a doctor, of course, 5 o'clock in the morning, like a crazy person. And so at 9 a.m., she said, come in. I need you to come in. And so I went in, and when they did this ultrasound and they saw the baby and he was healthy and he was moving all his limbs and he was practicing his breathing. And I started feeling cramps while I was on the ultrasound table. And so I was like, well, can you like ease up a minute? I'm like, when you're pushing, it's really hurting. And they started getting worse. And she was like, and then that would stop. And she's like, okay, does it feel better if you turn on your side? And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, no, it's back. And she said, okay, let's get the doctor. So she calls in my doctor, who was like, we need to put you on this contraction machine, basically. So they had all these things taped to me and they were monitoring my heart rate and the fetal heart rate and contractions. And then the computer showed I was having contractions. I can just say, God bless every woman that has a natural birth with no drugs, because these weren't even like labor contractions and they were painful. I don't even want to know what labor contractions feel like.
Were they Braxton Hicks things?
No, they were, because Braxton Hicks aren't really contractions. These were actual contractions,
Okay.
but they were called pre late pre preterm contractions, I guess. But
Mhm.
there was no rhyme or reason. So my doctor sent me, I remember getting wheeled out of the doctor's office in a wheelchair. Like everybody was looking at me. I'm visibly pregnant. So everybody's like giving me those like scared eyes, like, oh, I feel so bad for you. And you're just like, I'm panicking because I'm thinking it's too early. Like there's no, like what are we going to do? And, get to the hospital and they had stopped. By the time we got to the hospital, it had stopped. The doctor said that like there was nothing wrong. They did a test. They had to do a test at it was they had to, my doctor did a test and sent me with the like Q-tip or whatever with it, and she did something on my cervix, and that whatever test it is, that will tell them once they run it. Like they had to run it at the hospital. Once they run it, it will tell them if I'm in preterm labor, and I wasn't. And I didn't have any chance. My cervix was closed, completely shut. And based on whatever this test is that were able to do, they were able to see that there was no chance of preterm labor. So I was like, okay, I'm good. So we left the hospital, and that was that. It was freaky, and there was never any rhyme or reason to it. We had our C-section scheduled for 37 and 4 days
Uh-huh.
and I never asked until the week before I gave birth. I didn't ask why I had to deliver early. I just knew it had something to do with that uterine fibroid surgery.
Uh-huh.
And so finally, a week before, I was like, so why do I have to go in early? Like, why can't I carry to 40 weeks?
Uh-huh.
And she said, well, because we have to worry about the placenta attaching to the scar from your surgery and the scar ripping open. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, it could be deadly. I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, well, then let's do this at 37 and 4. I guess I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Like,
I have a few questions
yeah,
before we get to all that.
yeah,
Did you find out the gender during pregnancy?
we did not.
Oh,
No, it was a
fun.
surprise. Yeah.
What was your reasoning behind it?
Well, it wasn't my choice. I'm type A and I wanted to know, but my husband really, really wanted it to be a surprise.
Uh-huh.
And so I said that if you want it to be a surprise, then I get to design the nursery. I
That sounds like
probably
a
would
good
have,
deal.
yeah, I probably would have designed the nursery anyway. That I'm really like I always said, like, okay, for the first one, we'll do a surprise, but the second one, I need to know the gender. And I'm honestly really glad that I didn't know. It was
Really?
fun because well, also we both thought it was something different. He thought I was having a girl. I felt like I was having a boy. But that moment when James was born, it was like because it was a surprise. I can't describe it. I don't the feeling though of this like you finally know it's not just like because like my husband, poor guy, he had his daughter's whole life plan, father daughter dances. He's like, I pictured going to father daughter dances with her. So when it was born, he was like, shoot, I got to be dreaming different dreams. But yeah, it was the not knowing and then that anticipation finding
Yeah.
out. It was great.
Yeah, I bet. Now, was there any products or anything that helped you through pregnancy?
I had like probably 3 different pregnancy pillows that I tried. I had extreme back pain. So I couldn't sit for more than 30 minutes like this. I'd have to get up, but then I couldn't stand for too long. Like the laying down was the only thing that was comfortable. So I eventually got one of those like huge almost like a full circle pregnancy pillow. I call it like the divorce pillow because it kept my husband away from me. It was like taking up the whole bed. But I had one of those and that was helpful. I did the Palmer's, the anti-scar or like stretch mark, anti-stretch mark. So there's oil, a lotion, and then like a body butter.
Uh-huh.
I did that religiously. every morning, every night, all over my body, my boobs, everything. And I did not have a single stretch mark.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's positive. I, I didn't, took prenatals. I just did the like one a day. There was like one that had choline, it was like two bottles. So there was like one big pill and one smaller pill. And I did that, took that every day. I was really sick pretty much my whole pregnancy. I was on diclegis, which is like the anti-nausea medication.
Oh, gosh.
I didn't want to go on it at first because, like, I don't know. I was just like, it's a prescription. I don't want it to harm the baby. But I'm in the healthcare space, so I did my own research and I knew it was safe and it really worked. So it made me able to function. And then I walked. I walked 3 miles, probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow.
So, and I just was making sure to stay active throughout it. Yeah, I didn't hate pregnancy at all.
Yeah.
I kind of miss it. I definitely miss my bump because now I just have a pudgy fat stomach.
What about cravings in your diet?
Sugar. I still like breastfeeding. I still have like these crazy sugar cravings. It's unreal. I wanted pasta with red sauce. It could be any type of pasta. It had to be red sauce. I don't like red sauce. So the fact that I needed that, I would have it for breakfast. Like there'd be mornings that's what I wanted for breakfast.
Uh,
But then at dinner time, I wanted cereal and it had to be like sugary cereal, like Lucky Charms or something horrible for you. But other than that, I mean, I couldn't do fish or salmon, particularly salmon. I could
mhm.
not do it. But and chicken salad. That was the other thing that was super weird. I went through like 2 months of, I've never liked chicken salad. Like I've just never, ever liked it. And Costco's chicken salad with croissants, I had to have that for lunch every day for like 2 months. And I'm like, I'd be eating it going, I don't know why I'm eating this. I hate this. Like, I don't like chicken. I've never liked it my entire life. My mom would make it for my sisters, not for me because I don't like it. And now that I'm not pregnant, the thought of it makes like, ew, like, what was I doing?
Why did you start eating them in the first place?
I was at Costco and I just passed it and was like, that looks so good. Really could go for a chicken salad sandwich. And it's one of those things it's not like I look at it and turns me off and so I've never tried it. I tried to like it. I have always tried to like chicken salad because it looks appetizing to me, but I never like it. So that was a weird one. And McDonald's cheeseburgers. I wanted, like, I didn't care about the fries or anything else. Just needed just the plain old cheeseburger. And I would force myself, like, you can do this once a week. You can't be eating cheeseburgers every day. So,
And
um,
how did you prepare for baby classes and that sort of thing?
we read a book. It was like Your Pregnancy Every Day. It was this huge, thick book. And every night I would read like what was happening with my pregnancy and what to expect. We did a class at the hospital, a breastfeeding class, because I knew that was something I wanted to try. One piece of advice that I would give is like, I went into it saying, I'm going to try breastfeeding, but if it doesn't work for me, that's okay. Like, don't get hung up on it. But we went to the classes and that was nice, like just to talk to other couples. But I think like one of the things with being older parents, we have siblings that have kids. So we kind of knew a lot of like what we kind of were expecting. There wasn't a whole lot of we don't know what we don't know
Mhm.
because we'd been around people raising kids. I mean, my sister had her first when I was 13. So it just that I think if I was 25, I probably would have been a hell of a lot more like panicked. But I felt really just like ready.
Yeah.
We did the nursery. I designed that. It was like it's a sage green color, very pale green. And so it was just like getting the baby furniture together, my registry. I don't know what the heck I was doing. I had like duplicate stuff. We ended up with like 800 burp cloths and like $50 of the bottles. Uh, So we did there was a lot of returning happening. But yeah, I just tried to stay as relaxed as possible and just knew that we would be okay. I think my biggest fear through my pregnancy was the postpartum depression. I was so afraid because I struggle with anxiety and have had struggled with depression in the past. I was so fearful that I was not going to connect with my baby.
Yeah.
And, you hear people will say, oh, as soon as you hold them, you're going to have this instant connection. And I had one friend that said, you might not have that instant connection. I didn't. You will eventually. Like, it's okay if you don't.
Mhm.
Like, don't believe what people say, like you have this instant connection, because you might not. And I was just afraid I was going to be resentful, like, because I'm such a routine oriented person and I knew my routine was going to go to shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to, excuse my language. But so I was really, really afraid of that. And so I was like, that was what I discussed with my therapist a lot,
Hmm.
just how to prepare for that. So,
Yeah. Well, let's get to the birth if there's anything else you want to mention
yeah,
about your pregnancy.
no, I mean, that was really the, yeah, that was really the pregnancy. There wasn't a whole lot besides
Hmm.
those issues.
You never mentioned age. Was that ever a worry for you?
It was and wasn't. Like, because of going to that fertility specialist and finding out like you're good, I was like, okay, I, there was like, sometimes and it's still to this day, sometimes I think like, when my son's 20, I'm going to be 60. When my son's my age, I'm going to be 80. But then I also think about it like, wow, what a blessing, because we got to live our lives in our 20s, get our finances in order, get our careers like figured out what we want to do. We have a house. We have a friend group that's established, that's solid. We, have our families support, everything. Like, it we got to live, and now we get to start a new chapter. And when we're 60, our kids are going to be grown and out of the house. And one thing, like my grandmother always told me, she said her favorite decade was her 60s, because all her kids were out of the house, and that's where she fell in love with my grandfather all over again.
Oh,
And so I'm like, look forward to that, like I still have so much to look forward to, but I also really did get to live and find who I am as a person, and all of that. So I think like a lot of women just think my clock is ticking, but also remember, like, you really did get such a great life too. Like, you're like, a lot of women don't ever get to experience their 20s the way that I did. And I traveled the world. Like, I went on a lot of vacations, had fun. I had fun, you know.
yeah. Let's get to your
The birth.
C-section.
I went in, I gave birth at Rex Hospital, which is one of the hospitals here in Raleigh. And we had a C-section scheduled for 10 a.m. on November 8th. So I remember that being like, when they called to schedule it, I'm like, hold on, I need to talk to my husband. Like, I'm picking my child's birthday.
Yeah.
That is a big deal. Like, you don't think about it. And then all of a sudden it's you, like, I'm picking this date. So we picked November 8th, and no, it's just out of the available days. We were trying to figure it out with his work schedule too, to like have it closer to the weekend so that he didn't have to start taking time off right away. And so we chose November 8th. It was, oh my God, was it a Thursday? Wednesday? I don't remember. Oh my God, I feel horrible. Look at the calendar. Shoot. um, we went in, and for some reason, it took a little longer for us to go. So we were supposed to go in at 10, and then it didn't happen until 11. So when we went, I remember my friend telling me, like, they tell you it's not going to hurt, but when they put that spinal in, it hurts. Like, that's the worst part of the whole experience, is that spinal going in. And I was like, okay. But then I kept asking about it, and everybody's like, it just feels like a bee sting. It does not.
Uh-uh.
It
No
hurts.
way.
It does not. I don't know what kind of bees are stinging them, but this was way worse. This was like a hive of bees. And my husband wasn't there. He was getting into his scrubs.
Mhm.
So I remember holding on to the nurse going, I'll keep the baby. I'll keep the baby. And make it stop. Make it stop. And that was like when I was like crying at her. But then all of a sudden it was like 30 seconds and then it was over. And then I was laying on the table and, you're kind of laying out with your arms out. And I remember my husband still wasn't in there yet. And I was like, I don't feel well. I,
Uh-oh.
I said, I feel like, I kind of feel like I'm going to throw up. I kind of feel like I'm going to pass out. My mouth's really watery. I'm like, I remember the room was feeling like it was spinning and they started talking to each other. I was kind of in and out and, the doctor started telling the nurse to pump this or pump that. And they said it's just a side effect of the medication. And then I was okay. So it was 11. He was born at 11:29. So we went in at 11, but we didn't have we put our phones on do not disturb. So our family's thinking we should already be out of surgery when we were just going in. And
No.
so they were freaking out. And so then the baby, they had like a clear sheet and a blue sheet. So they pulled down the blue sheet and held the baby up and said, it's a boy. And that's this feeling so I know that people say you don't feel that an instant love. I did. And it was the most amazing feeling ever. I just at that moment was like, I can't believe this is like my life right now. So they took him away to get cleaned up and everything. My husband went with the baby. So we were in a room and there was a room off of my operating room where they took the baby to get weighed and measured and all of that stuff. So while they stitched me up, and I remember laying there and hearing the doctor say, oh no, I've never seen this before. Have you seen this before? And whoever she was talking to was like, nope, never saw that before. And I'm coherent. I
Yeah.
can't feel what's happening, but I can hear and think. And I was like, so Dr. Nana Panini, what are we not seeing? Or what are we seeing that we've never seen before? And she was like, well, remember how I told you that scar from your surgery could rupture and it could break open? And I said, yeah. And she said, that's what happened. So I don't think I mentioned I had an anterior placenta,
Uh-huh.
which means the placenta was on top. And some women don't ever really feel the baby kick in that instance because of that. I did, except for that one time. But because of that, it was sitting where that scar was. So when they removed the placenta, it ripped the scar open. And so I was like, what does this mean? She's like, it means I need to get to it right now. And I was like, well, will I be able to, am I going to ever be able to have kids again? She's like, I think, but we will have to deliver way earlier so this doesn't happen again. But let's just focus on the now. I'll get this stitched up. And I remember then my husband came out with the baby and handed him to me, and I got to hold him for the first time. And they said, do you want to see if he would latch? And I said, yeah. So I'm still laying on the operating table. And they put him on me and he latched immediately. And they were like, wow, he knew what he was doing. Prior to the delivery, they had told us there was my doctor, she's really great at kind of giving you all of the warnings, preparing you for everything. And so she had said, look, there could be a chance because the baby is coming early. There could be a chance that it doesn't breathe. It has to go in the NICU. There could be a chance that you leave the hospital without the baby. It's likely that it'll have to go in a breathing machine because of being born early. The lungs take a little longer to develop than everything else, that process of breathing.
Uh-huh.
But every time we had an ultrasound, they would test the breathing, and he was always practicing breathing during the ultrasound. And so I felt nervous, but also I think whatever, this baby is strong. This baby knows it doesn't want to be any in the NICU. I came out breathing great.
Yeah.
He was breathing fine. His lungs were totally healthy. He latched immediately.
Now, did they talk to you about having a steroid shot before your C-section to develop his lungs?
No.
Oh,
no.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I didn't. But then I remember that wave of nausea and like really feeling lightheaded again. That hit me again. And so I said, I can't hold him. I don't feel well. So they took the baby. They did what they had to do. I remember them saying, okay, your lips have color again. This is good. Because I guess I'd like gone blue. And then I was fine. So I thought. We were in the hospital. Baby was healthy. I was in there it was probably my second day in there that I started getting like having really bad pain. I did not take any pain medication besides ibuprofen and Tylenol until this day. It was like hurting to breathe. And I was really lightheaded. Every time I stood up, I was like, the room would spin. So they did put me on pain medication for the pain. And then they were like, my iron levels were very low. So I had a blood transfusion. And so besides that, everything was good. And then so kind of fast forward to the follow-up appointment, I got COVID when he was 5 weeks old. So they had to assume he also had COVID. Luckily, he had no symptoms. But I had missed my 6-week follow-up appointment because I couldn't go. I had COVID. So I went at 8 weeks, and the doctor, I brought the baby, and she was like, look how perfect he is. She was really like almost over the top, like, he's amazing. He's such a great baby. And I was like, what are we getting at? And she was like, let's talk about birth control. And I said, I have no interest in being on any kind of prescription birth control. I have no interest in pumping my body with those hormones. I did that for years. And then when I stopped, I felt a difference, and I just never want to be on that again. And she's like, you cannot get pregnant. You cannot get pregnant right away. Like, we have, because that, she's like, I've been waiting to tell you this because I wanted to see how you were feeling. I wanted to make sure, I know you were concerned about postpartum depression. I want to make sure you could bond with the baby. I didn't want you to have any fears or anything else. But now I can see that all of that is well and good, and you're healthy, and you almost died on the table.
What?
And yeah, she said it was that, like, it was, you were not, she didn't say you almost died. She said you were, it was life threatening. The scar ripped open, and it was life threatening. And I had to act fast, and I had to then use the time to stitch up that scar and then stitch up the C-section scar and try to do it. I'd never done anything like that. That was the first time for me. It was very scary. We don't want that to happen again. And then, like, you have this perfect baby. And I said, are you trying to tell me that I can't have any more kids? And she said, I don't know. I don't want to tell you no, but I want you to remember you do have one. Like, if that's the case, then basically we have to see how the scars heal. I have an ultrasound coming in May to see how my scars healed, because we do want 2 kids. Like, that's always been our plan, to have 2. And we do know we have to go 18 months C-section to C-section. So we weren't even going to start trying again until this summer. But, and yeah, I know, like, that's, I think, where the age comes in, is that, yeah, would it be ideal to, like, wait a couple years and then have another one? That, of course, would be ideal. But given my age, we don't have that kind of time. So we have to wait and see how the scars healed. I feel great. I feel fine. There's no pain or anything. The scars look good from the outside, but I don't know what the inside looks like. And so at this point, we just are praying that they are healing good, and we can start trying this summer as planned, and complete our family.
Yeah.
And if not, we'll have to look at other options, and we'll have to figure out how to deal with that, I guess.
Yeah. How was your recovery, healing wise?
It wasn't bad. They tell you shouldn't walk upstairs or anything. Like, I wasn't in that much pain, honestly.
Wow.
I was very anxious. I did end up on Zoloft, which I still am taking because I was always taking like a natural supplement for my anxiety that had worked for me for years. And I couldn't take it while pregnant, and I can't take it while breastfeeding. So they put me on Zoloft, which is safe for that. And I have seen a difference. It's helped a lot. I try, like, everybody has a plan of how they're going to be and what they're going to do. And I don't want to take this. And I kind of am like, give yourself grace, like, whatever is going to work, because what I have to keep telling myself is it's going to make me the best mom. Like, I'm not going to be a good mom if I'm ridden with anxiety all the time. And that's the same thing. Like, now I've just gotten back to the gym. It took me a while to find time to figure it out. I just started going back last week, but then that was hard because I go during my lunch break to feed my son at his daycare. And like, that's just something my company is okay with me doing. And I like to have that bonding time. He does eat if I'm not there. He still does eat, but it's just, I like that bonding. And so 2 days a week, I don't do that because instead I go to the gym, and I had to like really, that was a mental struggle. I had to really
Yeah.
like tell myself that I have to be the best version of me.
Uh-huh.
And the only way I'm going to be the best version of me is if I'm being active and I'm exercising and working on me and having that time there. The recovery was, yeah, was super anxious and wasn't eating enough initially because I just didn't have an appetite, but I wasn't in too much pain. It wasn't excruciating pain. I did not bleed a lot at all. A
Wow.
lot of women say that they have all bleeding. I didn't.
Uh-huh.
So wasn't like, I was in those diapers they give you at the hospital, but after that I was fine. And they like, maybe I should have used a belly band. I don't know. It was uncomfortable. Like I was uncomfortable, but I wasn't in pain. And I did end up with diastasis recti, which is the
Uh-huh.
separation of your abs. So I'm working on the physical therapist on that too. So
Uh-huh. Now, you were worried about depression. Do you think your anxiety was postpartum depression?
I think it was postpartum anxiety, but I also like I have generalized anxiety disorder to begin with. So I'm
Uh-huh.
always anxious. It was just extremely elevated.
Uh-huh.
And I think part of that was like my routine. I couldn't love my baby more. Like
Sure.
I just wanted to be with him. I still just want to be with him all the time. It really is a love I've never experienced. So, but the anxiety definitely was from like the postpartum. The like peak of it, we were driving to our first appointment. It was our 1 week, the baby was a week old, and a car was like, we were at a stoplight, and I could see I didn't sit in the back with him. I decided to sit up front. My husband was driving, and I could see this car coming at us full speed head on. And we were like two cars behind. So there was a police car stopped, another car, and then us.
Mm-hmm.
And this car was coming head on in the wrong direction, straight for our car. And I was screaming, like that moment of like, I can't get to the baby. I don't know what to do. And it clipped the cop car, which made it ricochet out of our path.
Wow.
It was so close. I could have put my hand out and touched this guy, and he was like 60 miles an hour. And we had nowhere to go. We were stopped. There was a median, and that was on our way to the doctor's office. So when we got there, I was still I wanted to, I was like, can we just not move? I don't want to go. I want to go home. I had a huge panic attack,
Yeah.
and that was kind of when it was worse than I think I would have handled it had I not been postpartum, but
Yeah. That sounds really scary.
it was.
Gosh. Well, how did breastfeeding go?
It's going great. I have been on a journey with pumps. So I've tried the Spectra. I tried the Mom Cozy wearable pumps. Recently got the Willow pumps. Highly, highly, highly recommend. The Spectra I got was like the rose gold one. I don't know. It was like best one out there and whatever. But it has to be plugged into the wall.
Uh-huh.
So you have to be plugged into the wall. Nobody else, they don't tell you that you need a special bra to hold your pumps. Otherwise, you have to hold them. And
Oh.
I didn't know that. So I didn't have any of these bras. Eventually, I got them. But so that was uncomfortable. Like to just sit there, like I can't move. I can't even I can't use my hands for 25, 30 minutes. James was very small because of being a little early too. So we needed to make sure he was gaining weight. So every time I fed him in the hospital, I would feed him and then I had to pump for 15 minutes. And then my husband would have to feed him with a syringe to just get extra so he would gain weight. But he is now healthy. He's in the third percentile.
Oh, that's good.
um, but yeah, so breastfeeding, I'm still doing it at full time. We just started solids in
Uh-huh.
the last couple of weeks, like just introducing them slowly. It I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like you're tired. There's a level of tired that I never knew existed, but I love it at the same time. Like I wouldn't trade it for
Yeah.
anything because I like that bonding. So
Yeah. What is your plan? Do you plan for James to wean naturally, or do you have a time?
I have no idea. I actually just told my husband that I was going to reach out to one of our friends who had her second baby the day we left the hospital with ours. So I was going to reach out to her because she's breastfeeding and a working mom. And I wanted to see like, so when did you do this? Because I really think that like having a network of women around you
Mm.
that is so important. It's like, I always say people can reach out to me with any questions. I'm an open book and don't ever be afraid. I've found that there's not been a single mother that I've talked to that was not willing to answer my questions.
Yeah.
So ask away,
I love that. It's so true, though. What has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
I would say that if I could go back and do this in my 20s, the only reason I would is because of how much I love my son and I want more time with him. Like
Yeah.
I want my family to have more time with him. I want my parents to have more time with him. That's the hardest mental block to get over is like my parents are in their 70s. I wish that they were in their 40s.
Yeah.
I wish that that's the only reason I wish I would have started earlier. And then now my fear of trying for a second, besides just obviously not knowing if I'm allowed to even get pregnant, but let's assume I can because that's where my head is at.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get pregnant again and I do, my fear is going through losses again. They're very difficult. And I just really, that's just very challenging. And if I have another loss, I like almost don't know if I'd be able to try again.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. I try not to plan for anything.
Is there anything you recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth over 40?
Therapy. Somebody to talk to, honestly. Journaling really helped me just like to get my thoughts out. Take the pictures because one thing I'm realizing is the weight does not just fall off. Everybody says, oh, if you breastfeed, the weight's going to fall off. No, it's still being put on right now, actually. So, like, you've got a lot going against you when you are 40. Your body already, your metabolism has started to slow down. And now, you've put on weight with a pregnancy. So you have to lose the baby weight. You are trying to balance your time. Breastfeeding, you're hungry all the time and you've got these crazy cravings. And so it's like hard to stay on any kind of diet. And then trying to find time to work out. Like I said, you're tired. Like I was a morning workout person. Like I'm not I've tried to wake up at 5 and work out. It's not happening. Um, so I think like right now, like body image is a big thing for me. It's a very big struggle. And so I think like that, if you can give yourself grace, like
Yeah.
just remember to give yourself grace. And every time I struggle with what I look like in the mirror, I just look at my son and know that he was worth the journey.
Yeah. I love that. What advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant if you could go back?
Do not eat so many carbs. No, I think that if I could go back, I would just tell myself to relax a little bit more, enjoy it a little bit more. I think I was so stressed about all the outside factors that I didn't really, really start enjoying it until I was probably around where you are, around 6 months. That's when I was like, I'm just going to relax and enjoy the rest of my pregnancy. But I wish I would have done that from the start. And take
Yeah.
the pictures. Take pictures. I didn't want to take pictures. I did, and I like hid them, but now I can go back and be like, oh, I'm glad I did take those pictures.
Yeah. And a lot of our listeners are trying to conceive over 40. What advice do you have for those ladies?
Make it fun. My advice with the pre-seed, if you're using it or you choose to, is you go and do that before your time, your special time. Go put that in yourself because it really does kill the mood. You're like, well, hold on a minute. Let me get this little syringe here. I like have fun with it because it does become a chore. It becomes like timetables and temperature taking and all of that, try to at least like, even if just once a week, try to like do something romantic, go on a date and then enjoy your husband, or write down 5 things. One thing we did, because it is an emotional time, one thing we did that had really helped us with our communication and the way we were with each other is separately, we would write down every morning 3 things we were grateful for. And one of those 3 things was always something about the other one. So I've never read what my husband wrote about me. He's never read what I wrote about him. But there were days that I was just like overwhelmed with gratitude for him, and other days where I was like, I'm grateful I have a husband, but I was, because I just we weren't getting along. But it does help when you start your day with gratitude. It really helped our communication and everything too.
I love that. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I like all the blessings to everybody that's trying. I know it's not easy, and it's hard to hear of other people getting pregnant when you're trying, and it's hard to be happy for, your friends and stuff. That's all hard. So just take a deep breath and know that like God has a plan for everybody, and it'll happen if it's supposed to happen, and when it's supposed to happen, and how it's supposed to happen.
Beautiful. Well, where can our listeners find you on the internet? Please tell us.
So I have a page. It's at 40-year-old mom. So it's 40.year.old.mom. I'm currently just on there with stories, really. I do a couple posts, but I just like to try to build my community, be there to answer questions. I also ask a lot of questions of people that follow me. Like, how do you do this? So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, Bridget, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you, Jamie, and good luck with the rest of your pregnancy. I'm really excited to follow along and hear how it continues to go.
And that wraps up another great episode on Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.